Hey everyone, it's Mr. Wob194, and today I have a book review for it's pretty much more of a short story, but it was published over and over again as an actual, I don't want to say a novel, but a particular book. Anyway, that book is called The Greatest Gift by Philip Von Doren Stern. Look at this. This is actually an art, the actual cover of the book. It's so beautiful. I love that stenciled style. I'll tell you the artist in a moment, too, for the illustrations, because that same art is done for the outside cover as well as the inside cover by the same fellow. This is the short story that was written as a Christmas card for Philip Von Doren Stern's neighbors and friends and loved ones one Christmas many years ago, that was eventually bought and adapted by Frank Capra and kind of Jimmy Stewart as well into It's a Wonderful Life, which is tied with Donnie Darko as my favorite film of all time. I've seen it God knows how many times since high school back in 2012, 2013 when I took film studies. That was the film. You know, Dracula was the first black and white film I actually ever really saw, and it piqued my curiosity about black and white horror films, and maybe there was something to it. Maybe it was more than just the Iron Giant and the Angry Beavers play on black and white horror and whatnot. And eventually I got into that. And now it came around. I got to the point I watched It's a Wonderful Life for the first time after hearing about it in little things like Batman the Animated Series and so on over time. And I finally saw this movie, and it piqued my interest in just film in general, and how much more movies can be than just action and lightsabers and everything else. Now, I'll tell you up front, It's a Wonderful Life is a very broad, expanded version of this original short story. This short story is maybe a 10-page short story, maybe a 15-page, not even 15, but it's a longer book than it is a... let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. This is the font. And most pages in here have an illustration, and then across from it have a page that has like one paragraph on it. Very rarely is there much in here font-wise. Again, it was published as a Christmas card. I would say with the font and the small handwriting and whatever back in the day, or printing or whatever, it probably had a pretty small amount of pages. Maybe if you published as a regular story, a regular short story, with a regular font, like a 13 or a 14 font, it was probably a 5 to 10 page story. Period. It's not very long at all. You'll breeze through it pretty fast. There's also an afterword from Philip Von Doren Stern's daughter at the end of the book, talking about some of the history of the story and why her dad wrote it and what it meant to him and what it meant to the world at the time, and then its adaptation, the Jimmy Stewart letters that she got, the Frank Capra letters. So many cool things. It's a really neat little story, but I do like the film better because of how expansive it is. This story, for anybody who doesn't know, picks up with a man named George. By the way, the last name is not Bailey in this short story. It's somebody else, George something or other. And it starts off with him at the bridge. If you don't happen to know what It's a Wonderful Life is about, I don't want to tell you too much, but the general premise is that in kind of the end or middle of the second act, George Bailey, in this case George something or other, pretty much goes to a bridge to kill himself after so many horrible things, how much he hates his life, he hates the town he grew up in all these years, he just wanted to get away when he was younger, he never got that chance to. He feels stranded, even though he's married, he has children, he has a beautiful, wonderful life that he takes for granted because of some rough times that came through, and he wants to die, he wants to kill himself, he wants to jump off a bridge. And an older man named Clarence comes over to him, apparently his guardian angel supposedly, and talks to him and claims to be, again, his personal guardian angel, talks him out of it, and kind of, they have a conversation, a little bit of a spat, and George says, I wish I'd never been born. And so Clarence shows him what the rest of the world would be like if he had never been born. It's a phenomenal movie. It's phenomenal. If you don't cry watching that movie, dude, I don't even have words for you. It's a pretty long film, too, a little bit of a slow film for that time as well. But I love it. I think it's an absolute American classic. Jimmy Stewart's best movie, hands down, no questions asked. It's phenomenal. He's wonderful in that. The guy playing Clarence is phenomenal too. He was a guy from Invisible Man, I believe is what it was. There's so many great pieces of that flick. The directing is wonderful. The script is powerful. The script might be the best script ever written, for that matter, in my opinion. But this original card is very simple. And it's meant to be that way. A lot of old fiction, which I love, like whether it be the Savage Tales of Solomon Kane, or whether it be any other Robert E. Howard thing, or Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle, anything like that was supposed to be more accessible to the audience, to be able to enjoy and take in and have fun with, to expand on who could pick it up. Very pulpy in that sense. The simplistic writing is here, and I really like that about it. I think the message of it is beautiful, even though it's not as good as the film adaptation of it. The film has, again, It's expanded so much on this story that you can't read this and see the film too, or know the film beforehand and not compare and contrast to on how different they are. This story feels like a very simplistic short story with a very beautiful message to it. There are certain parts of it that are pretty much identical word for word from the film, and some that are not. There's one thing involving a hairbrush. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of a small piece to what George does to go see the world around him that are different without him being alive. But there's some really great moments, and it's a solid read. It's not amazing. It would have been amazing at the time, I think. Really, honestly, compared to other short stories that were coming out, I think this would have been an amazing story back in the day to come out when it came out, the 40s, 30s, whenever it was. But as a 2021 read, almost 2022 read, it's not amazing, and yet for some reason, I read this book every single year of my life, and I don't know why. Just there's something about it. It's sweet, it's simple, and it's small. It's a great little read. By the way, I wanted to give credit to the illustrator. The illustrations throughout the book are done by Scott McCowan. Here's a great example of one of the pictures I'm talking about. There's one paragraph over here and this beautiful sketch art look to this illustration. I love it. It's so good. That's all I really have to say about this wonderful book. It was a gift from my mom many years ago, back in 2012 or 2013, when I first saw It's a Wonderful Life and became absolutely obsessed with it. I've watched it pretty much every year. I think I missed 1 year in all of my life of not watching that over those last whatever years it's been. I've been in love with it. It's a great flick. My mom gave me this, so I'll always have it. I'll always probably read it because of her. It means so much to me. It's such a beautiful looking book. That's really all I have to say about it. It's really not an amazing short story, but for its time, it's a classic, I would say. So if you want to check it out, if you want to see the inspiration for the wonderful, in my opinion, perfect almost, It's a Wonderful Life movie from Frank Capra, you should read this just one time in your life. It's probably public domain if I had to bet. I don't know for sure, but it might be. So you should check that out if it's on the internet somewhere. Not for free, just if it's public domain. Anyway, when it comes to The Greatest Gift by Philip Bondor and Stern, again, it's more of a short story review than anything, but if I had to rate this one on a 5-star basis, I would probably give it about a 4 out of 5 stars. Very good little short story. Very sweet, beautiful message to it. Really enjoy how important life is to this author and how you had to be a very particular person to write this kind of tale. You know, you really had to be. You couldn't have Stephen King writing something like this, even though he's a great, kind of more, when it comes to his tales, more human than most authors out there. Anyway, what are your thoughts on The Greatest Gift if you've read this? What are your thoughts on It's a Wonderful Life if you love that movie as much as I do? I'd love to hear all your thoughts down below. Again, It's a Wonderful Life is not just my favorite Christmas movie, it's my favorite movie, period, tied with Donnie Darko of all time. I'm sorry if this review is so rambly, I just don't have much to say about it. I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't read it. I do think the afterword at the end of this edition is great too, seeing some of the history, by the way. But overall, what are your thoughts? Put them down below. Thank you for watching. Again, 4 out of 5 stars for me for a great, sweet book. And thank you guys. God bless you. Merry Christmas and goodbye.